Good morning, Christ in our midst. Pomaže Bog, Hristos među nas. Dobro jutro. Dobrodošli na čas crkvene škole za dvojitelju po duhovima. Welcome to our virtual church school for the 27th Sunday after Pentecost. Let us pray to the Lord. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And oče naš koji si na nebesima, sveti Nikola, da dođe carstvo tvoje, da bude volja tvoja na zemlji kao na nebu. Let nas nasušni dan danas i oprosti nam dugove naše kako mi proštamo dužnicima svojih i ne daj nas u iskušenje, nego izbavi nas od zla. Gospode Isuse, Hriste Bože naš. Blagoslovi ove učitelje, ovi koji se uče s ovim učenjem, na tvoje proslavljenje, njihovo spasenje i na izbavljenje sve što postoji. Amen.
Good morning. Welcome to our virtual church school for the second Sunday of the Advent preparation period of the Nativity of Christ. We're looking at prior to Advent, we're looking at the Divine Liturgy. And we touched briefly, I know we did in the in-person church school, we touched briefly on the third antiphon, or the Beatitudes, the Blageni, that we hear chanted every single Divine Liturgy. And just to review that, how that applies to our daily life, the Beatitudes came from Christ's Sermon on the Mount. And in it, he says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness' sake, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you, and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven." So you might be wondering, why am I reviewing this now? We just did this a couple weeks ago. Well, it is very appropriate, not only for the time of Advent, to exemplify what we shall be doing, what even as the smallest of the children can be doing in their preparation for that joyous day when they get to open all the beautiful presents under the tree. That is a day that everybody, all the little kids look forward to. But it's more than just the presents that are under your tree. It is the presence of God in our lives, of being Christ to others, of you showing your presence to the world. And we're going to talk briefly about, which we've done, if you follow the summer school program where we've reviewed, when we do Serbian history and the life of the Serbian saints, we talked about the saints of America. We talked about one saint in particular, Sveti Nikola. And Sveti Nikola was the first bishop of the Serbian Orthodox Church in the Americas, sent here on a Rosh Hashanah to be the peacemaker between the Serbian peoples, to unify them, to bring them together, to make them one holy Orthodox Church in America, in the Serbian diocese. Saint Nikola was all of these. Saint Nikola was the Beatitudes in life. He exemplified every single. He was exemplified. If you're smaller, you know what that means. He was an example. He was an example. Just like your parents are an example to you, well, Saint Nikola was an example of all of the Beatitudes together. He is what is called a modern day contemporary saint. And you may be thinking, well, sainthood is something from the past. Sainthood was something from the early times of the persecutions during the 4th and 5th centuries, when people gave their lives for in the 3rd century, the beginning of Christianity. People gave their lives for not wanting to renounce Christ and their faith. You can't have a saint now. You may be thinking, well, we can't. We can't all, and we're all called to the potentiality of sainthood. We're all called to be the saints of Corinth, as early Christians were called. And we do that by living the Beatitudes. We say we're living the liturgy. Well, the Beatitudes is something we hear during the Divine Liturgy, and we are living the Beatitudes. And Saint Nikola, in all of his works, strive to do each and every one of these. even from a very, very small child. He was born in July. He was born in a very small town of Corinth, Montenegro, on November 2nd, 1889. The day that his parents, Peter and Yala Yuskovic, are his parents. They gave birth to a newborn baby boy, and they named him Ivan. Defined by Christian love, he was deeply embedded with the Serbian people, and his parents raised him in the Christian Serbian Orthodox faith. Even as a very small child, he wanted nothing more than to be part of God's kingdom. He wanted the presence of God in his life. He wanted to spend time in church. He wanted to spend time praying. He wanted to spend time reading books about the faith. He was not of he was in this world. He was not of this world. We hear that many times, that statement said. And you wonder, how's that possible? How can I be an Orthodox Christian amidst everything that is going on today that surrounds me? This is mostly for the older kids. You wonder, how can I be an example when times have changed? Well, the years may have changed, but the pressures and the need to want to try to always fit in, and we as Orthodox Christians cannot, has been there from the very beginning. Even the early days of Christianity, when people were being persecuted, you had child saints, you had female saints, you had saints you have male and female who refused to renounce Christ and follow the emperors and follow the pagan rule. So they had pressures. But they made that choice to stand firm in their faith and not give up on the preaching and the teaching of Christ. And they went out and they taught and they preached and they spread the word. The murder-bearing women, they would have had pressures in their time. They were women in a time when it was a male society. And yet they were the ones who went out and proclaimed Christ is risen. So the pressures, the years change, but the always that has been there. During the 1900s, there were wars. There were families who were being torn apart because part of their families were going off to war. If you have we get into the 50s and 60s, culture changes. You had parties starting. You had rock and roll come in. You had the advent, the beginning of media. You had records. You had TVs. You had everything coming up. People would want to spend less and less time doing things that they used to do. They maybe didn't ride the bikes anymore. They spent more time in front of a TV. So there were technology back then that could have influenced the decisions of the youth. But even in those days, they persevered. They addressed the issues before them. They addressed the anxiety. They addressed the peer pressure. They addressed the wanting to fit in. Well, in Sanidadi's time, it was much the same. Growing up in the 1800s, there was opportunity, but he chose to follow God. He was educated but by 1906, he was taught a monk at the very young age of 17, taking on the monastic name of Madadia from Ivan. And that is what some monastics do, because they are changing not changing who they are. They're always God's creation. They're changing their identity to be a new man. Just when you're baptized, you were given a name. Well, being taught a monk, we're going to live a new life, completely devoted to Christ now. He completed seminary in Moldova, which was part of Russia, and continued his education at the St. Petersburg Theological Seminary, graduating in 1916, being ordained to the priesthood at the very same time, 10 years later. At the age of 27, he was already ordained into the priesthood. So he's a monastic priest. By 1917, the Russian Church sends him to America in order to organize the Serbian Orthodox Church in America. And at that time, there were Serbian people here in America. We will talk more about probably our history for the summer. of the beginning of Orthodoxy, Serbian Orthodoxy in the Americas. The people were here, but they were separate, they were scattered, there was no unity. They were under the Russian jurisdiction. The Russians didn't have time to really mobilize them and bring them together. So they set Saint Medallia. They recognized his potential, his piety, his love, his meekness, his gentleness, and they felt that he would be the most able to bring the Serbs together. In 1919, in the town of Cleveland, Ohio, not far from here and not very close to where we used to live, they held the first assembly of the Serbian Orthodox Church in America and elected the first bishop of the Serbian Church. But a position that he, in his meekness and in his humility, he didn't want to take. And showing it without a position he did not want to take without the blessing of the Serbian Church in Serbia, showing his love and devotion for his mother country. He returned to Belgrade, and the Russian Orthodox Church still asked him to become Bishop of America. But the new patriarch in Serbia named him and had to be a monk of Rakovica Monastery. The Serbian then asked for a contemporary of Saint Medallia, Saint Nikola, to come. And that Saint Medallia would serve as Saint Nikola's deputy. Later, it would be seen that Saint Medallia would be the first bishop of the newly formed Serbian diocese of North America and Canada, with its head to be in Libertyville, Illinois, at the St. Sava Monastery. And now we see in his life, and it was not an easy life for him. He was ridiculed. He was persecuted. He was tried and tempted by his own clergy, by his parishioners. He was criticized as he tried to build St. Sava Monastery with his own money and with his own hands and his own labor. So you see, once again, you have blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So you have him working tirelessly with his own hands, riding his bike from Libertyville all the way into the city of Chicago to get bricks, which he would then ride the bike back again, loaded with bricks, and take a reprieve, and then begin working on laying the foundation and the bricks for the monastery. This is truly a labor of love. And we think of what we are called to do, and it seems it's so minor compared to what the labor of love that Saint Medallia put into, and dedication that he put into to building the monastery and being with his people. At the same time, traveling across the whole United States, building other churches, consecrating other churches, including Holy Trinity in Youngstown, Ohio, St. Nicholas in Hamilton. He built many churches during his time, but he never gave up building St. Sava's Monastery. And this led him to be in very, very poor health. By the time he was named to the episcopate, and his official ordination took place in 1926 in Belgrade, he was already in dying health. He faced poor health and adversaries and critics from both the Serbian people, his own clergy, but he did this in humility. And you have, again, the Beatitudes. Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you, and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. But he didn't strike back. He didn't ridicule. He didn't give up. He persevered. And he greeted everyone with love and gentleness and kindness, even when their actions were far from being Christian. He faced poor health during his entire time that he was building St. Sava's Monastery. On December 12th, 1935, in Libertyville, he reposed at the monastery in Libertyville. And it was in not long ago, 2017, exactly 100 years after Hiram McDowell was sent to America to build the Serbian Orthodox Church here. His relics were opened, and his body was found intact. And it is there, and he it is there at St. Thomas Monastery, where you can venerate the relics of Saint Medania. And we really want to look and focus and see how does this affect us? Somebody living in modern time, 1935. Many of you have relatives who would have been born in and around 1935. Great grandparents. One of my aunts was born in around that time, so that is not all that long ago. To have a man who labored and his works can still be seen. You travel to Libertyville. If you ever go to Chicago, travel to Libertyville, Illinois. Look at the monastery that was built by the hands of Saint Medania. And think about the Beatitudes and how every single aspect of his life was in serving God. Even in poor health, he sought to serve God. So to take the time during Advent to reflect and to think and to use as the example Saint Medania, who built the Serbian church here in America for us, so that we have the unity, the love, and the presence of our people in the Orthodox society in the Americas. Think about what you can do for your church. Think about what you can do for others in your community. Saint Medania helped the poor. He gave not only to the church, he gave to the needy in his community. He helped out. And use him as an example in our lives. Look at him as a mirror as who we are called to be as Orthodox Christians. In doing so, we're going to really look back and look ahead and think about what we're going to be doing as our projects to reach out to the community, to be Christ to others in the community. We have our boxes are up. We have a food drive for the Jenkintown Food Bank, dry, non-perishable goods. Canned goods are good. We have a pet drive up for the Home at Last Shelter, which is a really no-kill shelter that they have dogs and cats that they are housing in many foster homes that need assistance in helping with them. We have to bring beds, puppy beds, toys, food. They will take blankets. They will take just about anything we can give to help them out. We have another little box set up for activity bags that we're going to make for the elderly in the nursing home. No food, please, in that one. Just activity kits, maybe embroidery kits, craft kits. Actually, it could be children's stuff that you would get at Michael's for the elderly to do during their activity time. Hand lotion is good. Socks, slipper socks. Things that anybody could use if they're in the nursing home. We'll also be working on our project for our funded vegetable program. So Butler Gorsuch is not that far down the road. So we have a lot of activities going on. Please make the effort to come, and most of all, make an effort to sincerely participate in Advent with additional prayers, fasting, reading the lives of the saints, and applying this to our lives and our own to the nativity. So with that, we're probably about ready to start the liturgy. Have a great day, and we'll read in closing prayer.
Gospodи, si blažen za ovog tebe, Bogorodice, blaž se da se slonimo ti Boga našega, čas da bi na tebe dosadnje crkvi, na tiče Bogorečne, Bogorodice, Bogorodice, tamo. Gospodи, mi tvoj blessed the purpose of this and give one of our God and all of the share and make from the place of the Sarah, not in here again, for the word, great also to you, amen. God is with us through grace and bounty, supplement, kind, always now and ever, and for age to ages. Amen.